I went to work with the godmother of a niece of mine to the coast. And while I was working in the coast, she sold me to some people from the coast, and when she sold me, I didn't know about it. She just told me, look, we're going to take you to invite you to lunch, we're going to go out. And I said, no, I don't know this, and I don't go out with just anybody. And these men came for me, and I said, no, I'm not going out. I don't know them. And they paid a great sum for me of money, and I ruined their business. And it turned out that that business transaction was for prostitution. And because I ruined that business, and I did not want to go out, and I locked myself inside, and I refused to go out. And my mother-in-law lost a lot of money, and as a way of getting vengeance on me, she took me on a trip to a farm, and I didn't want to go to that either. But they told me I didn't have a choice, I had to go. By force I had to go. I went out. And after, I said to a girl, take care of me. I don't know this stuff over here. I don't know how to function in the culture there. And she said, okay, and she also tricked me. And I took like a soda, like a refreshment, and I think they gave me something inside of that, and I slept for like a week. And when I woke up in a huge house in a big farm. And while I was in that farm, there were some Indians, a couple. And I said, where are the people that were on a trip with me? And they said, they left a week ago. You stayed here sleeping. And I was like, what? And I was scared. And they said, yeah, you stayed here with El Pana. That was the name of a cartel person here in Medellin. And I said, what? And so during that whole week, they had me doped, and they abused me. They did all sorts of things to me. And when they saw that El Pana was coming, they hid and they left me alone. And so he said to me, did you wake up a long time ago? And I said, no, not a long time, but I want to go. And he said, no, you can't go. You're my partner. You're here with me now. And I said, what? Like, what do you mean? Since when? Like, I didn't know about this. And so the point was that I was pregnant, and my first daughter was born, like under a drug situation. And I said, no, like, and after, he let me go to like some control things, and he said to me, I know who your family is, you come from a humble family of poor resources, and you have a brother that's a policeman. And back then was the age of Pablo Escobar, and they were killing many cops, and they would give like 10,000 like pesos, like for every cop that they killed. And so I was full of fear that they were going to kill my family, that they were going to kill my brother. And so then he began to force me to smoke with him. I had to smoke, I had to drink with him. Everything that he did, I had to do things that to me, I was like, wow, I've never done this before. My family taught me otherwise. Why am I doing this? And it was a struggle. And I would say, Lord, I want to leave here. And despite that, I didn't know Jesus. But I would say, Lord, why is this happening to me? And when I was here in Medellin, and they began to gather all the people that were into drugs, all the drug lords, and they were losing a lot of money, and it was the opportunity for me to leave there. And I said to him, look, I don't understand you, and why don't you let me go home? If you want the daughter, the girl, you can come and see her. You said that you know my family. Well, look after your daughter. Like, I won't take your rights away from you. But he said to me, no, you're not leaving here. And when his partner came, that was the landlord of the farm that I was on, I told him, why don't you get me out of here? And he said, no, like, I'm not going to get involved. And I was afraid of him because he was a person to be feared. Oh, he was afraid of the person that was my partner. And I said, Lord, I want to leave here. Like, this is not a life for me. My life was something different, and I hoped different things out of life, better things. But one day, he was of good humor, and so I approached him, and I said to him, look, you and I, like, we don't understand each other. Like, look, you don't respect me. I don't respect you. That's not love. Love to me is something very different. Look. And when I saw that they were selling the farm and we had to get out of there, he said to me, okay. And he told me, leave the next day. And I said, no, like, I'll leave right now. Like, it's good. And I didn't take any of my clothes. I didn't take anything. And I said, I'm leaving. And I was pregnant with my second, with Maritza. When I came, and Tatiana, the eldest, she was going to be a year old. And so I saw that opportunity and I left. And he took me to the public transportation. And I was like, Lord, get me out of here. And when I got here to Medellin, I got the bad news that my family wasn't where they used to live. And I was thinking, oh man, what's going on? And I was thinking the worst. And I was full of fear that they were going to kill me, that they were going to take my daughter away from me. And I was thinking a lot of things. After I found my family, a neighbor that knew me said to me, I know where your mom is, I know where your family is. And so they called and they came and picked me up, and I started working here in Medellin, and I was very happy. And then they began to abuse me again. And I said, well, and I was only thinking of like getting vengeance and killing. Like, that's what I was thinking. And in my heart, there wasn't anything good in my heart. There was only bitterness and sadness. My heart was like a rock. And I was determined to kill everybody that had done so much harm to me. When in my home, there was one brother that was a Christian, and he would say to me, you're going to live with missionaries, you're going to live with them, you're going to work with them, you are this. And I would say, no, you're crazy. Look, Mario, you do your thing and you respect me, and I'm going to do my thing, and we'll just be separate. And him and I were like dirt and nail, like we were very friends, it means. And we would share everything. But up to there, when he began, like, with that, I would say no. Like, I don't want to disrespect you. Like, I respect your religion, you respect mine. Like, I was born Catholic, I'm gonna die Catholic. But because my heart was broken, messed up, and so I let some time pass, and in that time I began. But I continued to work to raise up my daughters, and thanks to God, like they lacked nothing, and they began to visit my mother. Like, some Christians began to visit my mother and one of my nieces and my sister, and I was like, wow, I like that music, like that's really nice music, and I would listen to them, and I was like, no, they're hypocrites, they're also hypocrites, you understand? I was like, no, like I can't listen to them, they're bad, they're hypocrites. And I was like, no, but I like their music. And one of those moments, I was with the girls in the park, in a little park. There was a man that had a lot of cows. And he would always like take us through the park. And one day I was so full of anger, and I was like, don't you have any like fields? Like each week he had to hospitalize one of his daughters that was sick in her heart, and she was bad. And he said to me, show me your father, show me your husband, who's gonna like stand for you. And I was like, no, listen, pretend like I'm a man. Like, see me eye to eye. I know that you'll kill anybody. I know that you don't care. But you have to. He investigated me. And the president of like the governor of the town was like, they're doing like some research on you. They're looking you up. Like they're asking about you. And he told him that I was a single woman, that I had 5 daughters, that I worked hard for those daughters, and I didn't have a father, and I had nobody. And so he commented to them that for the first time in his life, like anybody that answered to him like poorly, like he would kill them. And so they would say to me, be careful with him, like watch your back. He's going to kill you in any moment. And I was like, fine, let them kill me. He'll die too. And that's the only thing I would reply. And when I least thought about it, in December, it was 24th of December, we got together, some families, 3 families that live close by, in these little farms. We bought a pig to fix it up and to do a big meal, and I saw this man there, and I was coming with the groceries, and I said, oh Lord, like I can't show fear, I have to continue forward. When I was like, hey, how are you? And it's like, oh, la negra's here, like the black lady's here, and he looked at me. Negra, Sonia, who's that lady? I like that girl. And I said, why? And he would say, yeah, because like no girl has ever stood up to me like a man. And I felt like that lady hit me in the face. And everybody began to ask, what do you mean? What do you mean? Her. And he was like, yeah. Imagine, like, she said this to me and that to me, and she insulted me and she treated me poorly. And no woman has ever treated me poorly. But this is the first time that a woman stands up to me and tells me what I am. And I showed signs that, like, to not say anything about me, like what had happened had happened. And the girl asked me, did you really do that? And I said, yeah. And the man, and then after I apologized to him, in that moment, they said to me, he had a bunch of guns, a bunch of weapons, anything you thought of, like any weapon you wanted. And I was like, well, I have to be his friend because I want to get vengeance of all the things that bad people have done to me. So how can I get a weapon? I have to become a friend of this bad guy. And so the day I least thought of it, I said to him, I'm sorry for the things I said to you, but look, my little girl's sick all the time, and there's nobody to take her to the doctor. I work very hard, and I leave at 5 in the morning, and I come back at like 7, 10 at night, and my daughters are alone, and I have to leave food for them, I have to leave all sorts of stuff for them, and I have to look after them, and I have to do this. And she said, no, Negra, don't worry about it, I know who you are, you're a good person. And I said to him, okay, I need to find a weapon, I need to find a gun, who do I find it with? And I'm just, pretending I'm kind of crazy. And he was like, what kind of gun do you need? And I was like, I need a small automatic gun that I can use easily, that I can put it in my bag. And he said, and so the next day I was going to meet with him, so that he was going to take me to see what kind of gun I could choose from. And I said, okay. And I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna get vengeance. I'm gonna leave. And it turns out when I left the house, the Christians that were evangelizing to my sister and my mother, they were singing a song, and it was saying, I'm tired of the walk like a soldier. And I was like, I sat down. And I forgot about my appointment with this guy. And I sat down to listen to this song. And I began to cry and to cry and to cry, and I didn't know why. And I was crying. And I would only close my eyes and just cry and remember. And I would say, yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired of being abused. I'm tired of being humiliated. I'm tired of people doing all these bad things to you. I haven't been a bad person. Like, I've been a good daughter. And I would say all this. And I would say, I've been a good daughter, I've been a good friend, I've been a good neighbor. I don't do anything bad to anybody. Like, why does all this stuff have to happen to me? Why to me? And when all this finished, one of them left, and she said, I want to pray for you. And I said, for me? No. No, I don't need that. And she said, yeah, I know, but it's from God. And she prayed for me. And I cried so much. And I stayed there. And when I remembered my appointment, and I took off, and I went. And there's a bunch of stairs that I have to go down to get to my house. And when I got to a certain point, I couldn't walk, like I was paralyzed. And I would hear a voice, where are you going? Where do you think you're going? I'm your father, I'm with you. Do you remember when you were a little girl and you tried to kill yourself? And I saw everything. I saw everything, and it was like I was in slow motion. And I looked around, and I was like, who's talking to me? And I would look around, and I wouldn't see anybody. And he would say, do you remember when you were like, when you were cutting yourself? And he would show me all this stuff. And I saw everything. And I was like, who's talking to me? And he would say, I'm your father, I'm here, I'm with you. And I was suffering. Like, I had suffered, and I didn't understand who was talking to me. And I looked up, and I was looking around. And I knew a father that was bad, that mistreated me also. And I looked, and I was like, what's wrong? What's happening to me? And I would try, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move from there, and I didn't see anybody. And I said, what's happening to me? When he says to me, do you remember that I was sustaining you when feeding your children, your daughters, in your sickness? Do you remember when they raped you? There's a purpose to that because you're my daughter. And I was like, but who are you? Who are you? And I would look in every direction, and I was like lost. And the only thing I would do was look, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed. And nonetheless, I said, Lord, is it real that you're very real? Do you really exist? So why is this happening to me? Why am I going through all these things? I don't understand. I don't know where to live. I don't have clothing for my daughters. I don't have anything for them. I don't have anything to offer them. I wanted something good for them. So what's going on? And he said to me, he would say to me, if I have sustained you alive, it's for a purpose, because you're my chosen daughter. You are what I love the most, and I'm not going to lose you. I'm going to continue sustaining you. When I heard, I relaxed, and I said, okay. But if I'm your daughter, so why am I missing everything? Why do they humiliate me? Why do they abuse me and everything? And he just comforted me, and I felt like a chill, like a heat, like something. And nonetheless, through that, I began to calm down, and I began to relax. And I said, well, yeah, why am I going to kill? Who am I? Who am I to kill somebody? Despite the fact that they've done so much wrong to me. But help me then, if you really exist, and you are speaking to me, I don't see anything, but then help me. And my little girls were very small, and my sister would take them to church. And one Sunday, I woke up, I returned to the house, I laid down. The last day I thought, because my thinking was to wipe out all these people, to finish them off, and immediately to go home and to buy myself a poison, and to poison my daughters and to kill myself. Because I didn't have a solution or a way of moving forward. But he was there, watchful and watchful of every step that I was taking, every little step. And my girls were like, Mom, let's go to church. Mom, this. Mom, it's really good. Mom, they're teaching us this. Mom, stop smoking. Mom, leave this. And I was like, and I said, okay, that's true. I'm like killing myself, like, stupidly. Okay, daughters. Like, I'm not going to smoke again. I'm not going to go back to all these things. I'm going to listen to you. I said to the girls. And so one Sunday I woke up, and when I woke up, my sister wasn't there anymore. Nobody was at home. My mother wasn't there, and I said, wow, where'd they go? And the girls told me, Mom, they went to church. But because you had us like locked in here in the house, we didn't go out. And I said, do you know where that church is at? And they said, yeah. And I said, okay, then let's go. And so I went to church. When I got to church, well, I walked a lot, but we went into a bunch of churches. And I said, if you see your aunt, we'll stay there. If you see the ladies that have gone to the house, we'll stay there in the church. And if not, then we'll go back home. And so we got up. I remember we got up like at 7 in the morning. And we walked, and we went to like 6 churches in the whole neighborhood, in the whole area. And I said, no, they're not here, daughters. Let's just go home. Are you hungry? I'm hungry too. Let's just go home. And as it turns out, when we finally saw everything, I became a Christian, and I said, okay. I raised up my hand, and it was a blessing. And I began to know Jesus Christ, and he began to build many things in my life. And there, it was a joy for me. And I left liquor, I left everything, and now I go ahead slowly through each process, and God has healed me of many things. Now I have a ministry with kids, and my girls are very attractive to guys. And one day we were going to church, nothing happened, but we saw that they were following us, but we didn't notice anything, and so we continued, and the next day I had to go to church. And they were watching what our schedules were when we would come in and out. And they knew everything. And when we least expected it that day, one of the girls didn't want to leave the house, and I went to church alone. And in order to get my daughter, 2 men grabbed me. They grabbed me from here. They took me, they raped me. I had been operated like 10 years ago. The youngest daughter was already 10 years old. And I was calm because they didn't do anything to me, because I'm clean and I'm good. As it turns out, from so much that they molested me, they ruined some operations that they'd done on me, and I was pregnant again with my 6th daughter, and her name is Daniela. And I had to ask for support, find out who would support me, and take my 4 daughters that I had, because the other one was in Mercy, the eldest. And so they took them, while I was hospitalized because I almost died. Because of the pregnancy that was high risk. It was very dangerous for me as well as for her, for the girl. And the doctors were waiting for a little girl that was deformed, that because of so many infections that I had in my body. And so we were waiting for the worst. And as it turns out, I came out from the pregnancy and I was going to abort. And then I was like, no, because I had already had an encounter with God. And I was like, Lord, do I do this? No, I know this is wrong. And so I didn't do it. And the pastor said to me, you're not capable. And you take the decision, you make the decision. But you can't. You can't. And I know that you're not able to live with something like that. And so, seeing the whole situation, I said, okay, like I blocked myself, like I blocked everything out. They almost took me to a crazy house. And there they continued to visit me. The brethren would pray for me a lot. And they would always be on top of me, and my neighbors would come and visit me, and they would just be watchful that I wouldn't be needing anything, and they would say I'm not alone. And so God was showing me everything. He was saying, go forward, continue forward. So I came out of that crisis, and now I'm with Daniela, even though sometimes like the screaming, like I get frustrated. But Peggy and other people that would come, like every time she screams, the little girl, Daniela, she would tell me, calm down, you don't need to scream, like I'm here with you, we're here for you. And the girl has like responded well, and so I'm here in the process, like raising myself up again, even though I feel young, but my sicknesses, I feel like an old lady now that's not able to do things, and I'm wanting to do them. And so really, for me, it's been a time of a week that I've been here of ministering a lot to God, like I'm ministering by God to me, and telling me that Daniela is a gift to me, and she's going to be the greatest support to me, perhaps even more than my other daughters. And I was like, okay, Lord, thank you. I can only say thank you, God. Your will be done. Now that in my own strength, I don't have how to raise her, because she needs like people to take care of her like the other girls, but it's very difficult for me now, and I'm alone. And so you have to do it, God. You're her father, so see what you're gonna do with Daniela. But there she is, and the little girl is healthy, she's very intelligent, she's very open. She's a very good girl. And so, there she is. And I want to say to you all, to the people that have gone through my process, through my experience, or even stronger, I just want to say to continue forward, that God is there, He's supporting you, and He's there for all of us, and He's watchful of every need that we have. And I thank you so much for interviewing me, for having invited me to have this testimony, because I want to reach a lot of people too, so that they would know Jesus, so that they would know how big He is, that He's so much bigger, and without Him we are not anybody, we cannot live. We're not capable, and in one way or another, He is watchful of every step that we take, and also the consequences that we seek. These will take us to follow Him more. And I encourage you to continue upward, to fight, because we need to fight a lot. It's a struggle between ourselves and God and the world that's attacking you, your mind, and it takes you to thoughts that are not agreeable to God. You have to put out your part, and you can do it. You'll move ahead. Amen.